At this point, item 2F, Lewis Hammond has some research on the U.S. Supreme Court case that was happened near the Civil War, Municipal War, Dred Scott versus Sanford case, where apparently the Civil War did not cure all of the evils that the Dred Scott case perpetrated. And Lewis, I believe, has a prepared presentation that we're going to take a little bit of time and go ahead and do a bit of a deep dive into Lewis's presentation on these issues. I'm really looking forward to this. Lewis, please present your concerns to our group here.
Okay, thank you, Charles. I was hoping that Sa, member of our Wayne County and Michigan Republic here, had the ability to make this call because during our conversation on our February the 1st virtual assembly, Sa presented a different position and one that, or perspective, one that I'd not heard before. My question to Charles was how, if any, could the Supreme Court of Law affect that decision, overturn it, or affect that? So that was my question to Charles, is how could the Supreme Court of Law affect that decision, as it is, in my opinion, one of the worst decisions that the Supreme Court has ever made in their existence. And it actually passed 7-2, so it really wasn't even close at the time. And it was prior to what Charles refers to as the Municipal War. And Sa's position was that the 14th Amendment is actually null and void. And, well, in fact, as opposed to me attempt to summarize his position, I want to play just the take 3 minutes to present the conversation. What you're about to hear is from just an excerpt, only 3 minutes, a little over 3 minutes, 45 seconds, from our call a week ago this past Monday on the Wayne County Republican Michigan Assembly.
If I might, Charles.
Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I think it's good to put this on the agenda of our Saturday conferences. Yes, definitely. And I appreciate your explanation of the elements of what point you're concerned about. Apparently, black people are still being considered slaves, at least in part, probably, because of the precedent set by Dred Scott versus Sanford, and that erroneous decision has never been corrected. I have spent time in the Dred Scott case. I know it's a powerful case, but I hadn't gleaned that particular element from it. And an issue like this could be a massive groundswell, moral high ground, legal high ground type of positioning that I would love to be involved with, working with you all on assembling our own jury to overturn that evil decision. I yield.
Excellent. Go ahead. Is there anyone who would like to comment on that?
Landmark decision of Dred Scott versus John F. Sanford. That decision totally made the 14th Amendment null and void. I think we're missing the point of why that decision is such a landmark decision. It really didn't have anything to do with African descent. If it states that people of African descent cannot be citizens of the United States, then that means that anybody that comes into the United States as a certificated person is not a citizen of the United States. So the 14th Amendment is null and void under the Supremacy Clause. It has no standing. But because we are accepting the 14th Amendment status, they'll keep treating you as a slave. And it's not just black people. I have noticed every person that declares that they're a 14th Amendment United States citizen is a slave. And now, do others get treated differently? Yeah, that's true. But the landmark decision of Dred Scott, I don't believe it to be an evil decision. I believe it to be a marker in how things should have been done under the Articles as opposed to under the Constitution. Because it was a decision based on it. If you have people that have come from all, you had immigrants coming from everywhere. Thomas Jefferson had more people in the United States Constitution than any person that was already here on this land, and making those decisions on what should be and what should not be. And he was an immigrant himself, but somehow he became a citizen. So I would just suggest kind of looking a little bit deeper into that decision, because I don't believe it's an evil decision. I believe that decision makes freedoms for anybody that does not want to be a 14th Amendment citizen. And I yield.
I'm interested in continuing that conversation, because that on that side, I'm at the other side on that one. Let me ask you this. On Saturday, I think the next Saturday call is going to be the 13th at 5 p.m. Are you going to be available to participate on that call?
I will. Who are you talking to, Louis?
To engage you in that. Yeah, that was the excerpt. So I might have gotten tied up, because he did indicate to me earlier today that he was going to be on that on this call, because that was a position that I've never heard before. Couple of things before I go any further with my statement, because I believe that words matter, and as such I try to be as accurate as possible in my speech. So number one, I don't refer to people as slaves or even the enslaved, but I actually believe, based on my education and research, that these people that we're discussing were prisoners of war. Okay, and someone on the call may say, well, what war was that? But I believe that the people that we're discussing and the descendants of were prisoners of the War of 1591 on the Songhai Empire of Western Africa, specifically by the Moors. But Songhai Empire probably encompassed about 10 modern-day nations on the African continent. If those on the call are not familiar with the Songhai people, you might be familiar with the great city Timbuktu. That was actually within Songhai, in the Songhai Empire. So when I use the term black, which I do, I'm speaking about a very specific people. I'm speaking of the descendants of the people of the Songhai Empire, not to the amount of melanin in one's skin. Those are two different things. So I'm not talking about Moors, Hebrews, or the tribes here, most of which were in fact black, or would be termed black in color before the existence of the $5 Indian. So I want everyone to know I'm speaking of a very specific people. And that's, based upon that, one might conclude that, well, the current vice president of the de facto government, Kamala Harris, then, based upon your definition, is not black. And you would be 100% correct. And I've had that. She's not. She's of Indian descent on both parts, mother and father. The father has a different nationality, being Jamaican. So she's often held up to be of Indian and Jamaican ethnicity. That is incorrect. Both of her parents are Indians, just from different castes of Indians. Again, her father is Jamaican by nationality only, not ethnicity. And anyone who's ever seen a picture of the man would be able to recognize that immediately. So, that being said, they kind of group people of African descent, when that's not even the case. Morocco is northern Africa. And it was much larger, the Moroccan Empire at that time, than the current nation of Morocco. The reason I believe that the Dred Scott decision is important, and obviously the legislature did as well, having to enact the Civil Rights Act of 1866, because of that as well, backing up the 13th Amendment. And by the way, I am aware that the 13th Amendment is not the original 13th Amendment. So we don't need to go there right now. I recognize that the original 13th Amendment was the amendment regarding the titles of nobility. I am also aware, however, that the proposed 13th Amendment to replace that actually had 20 sections, not the 2 which ultimately passed based upon compromise. And anytime I hear the word compromise within this corporation's legislative body, which is the United States government. I believe that I think that was Gary of Nevada spoke of earlier. It makes me very nervous because it doesn't work for the benefit of any peoples of color, whether we're talking about descendants of the Songhai, whether we're talking about Hebrews mistakenly as black, Moors mistakenly as black, or members of the tribes that have been here from the beginning mistaken for black.